Okay, welcome back. Happy Friday. Still talking about participant observation today. We've got 2 case studies, and then I have a very, very short activity for us to finish, and then you can go and have a wonderful National Day holiday. We've been talking about these research advantages. We looked at a case study on Wednesday, illustrating all these advantages, the drug needle sharing. But today I want to look at 2 case studies from business anthropology, okay, that illustrate some of these advantages. We'll look at an example of an advertising campaign. Okay, you go Guangao Huodong for luxury cars. The marketers here, the advertisers, they are exploring people's home space, their homes, to understand their emic perspectives on success. How do these people they are targeting think of themselves as successful? What does it mean to be successful in this group they're trying to market to? We'll look at that. And in our second case study, we'll come back to this topic of trust. Okay, this topic of trust created through participant observation. This project is examining factory workers and whether they work faster or not when they believe they are being observed, okay? When they believe they are being watched by management. I chose this one for 2 reasons. This one is a beautiful example of a mixed methods project using participant observation and an experimental study. It's a great example of how the strengths of one method can sort of complement the weaknesses of another method. I want to talk about this one because I hope you'll all use participant observation at some point in your research careers or your job. But if you do, it will almost certainly be mixed methods. You'll do that and something else. You'll do that and interviews and surveys and an experiment. You're probably not going to just rely on that one method. So it's good to think about how it can work with other methods. This also a very controversial case. Some people find it unethical. We'll talk about that in a future class. Today I just want to focus on the mixed methods aspect. All right, here we go. Our first case study. Yeah, designing luxury ads. And our phenomenon of interest here is emic perceptions of success. Oh, a bit nervous. Anyway, I didn't press it. Emic perceptions of success. How do consumers in a target demographic view themselves as successful people? And I'll start this case study with a personal example. This is an old commercial, 2014. I remember it because I was living in Los Angeles and I was buying a car at the time. And I see this commercial. It gives me a good impression of Audi, okay? So let's start here. Here it is. This is from 2014. Yeah, I'll turn this all the way up, but sorry that the sound isn't extremely loud. Okay, so I'm looking for a car to buy. I see this commercial. It's okay. It gives me a good impression of Audi. Specifically, I like the people in this commercial. Okay, I like the people in this commercial. All the people in this video, Ricky Gervais, Clarissa Shields, Queen, Freddie Mercury, they all have, gentle personalities. They're nice people. They're all very talented. And they're all what we might call social underdogs. Social underdogs. A social underdog is someone who lacks social advantages. Maybe they grew up poor. Maybe they belong to a marginalized group. Freddie Mercury, a gay man in the 1980s. Or maybe they just don't fit in with the normative standards of society. A female boxer, right? A female boxer, a very strong woman, who can beat up other people. That doesn't really conform to standard ideals of femininity, in which women are supposed to be, soft and delicate. So, success is not just, handed to these people. They don't start with lots of advantages and privileges. They have to fight hard to make their own success. Well, these are all qualities, that I want for myself. They're all very successful. They obtain that success through, kind, sincere, and honest effort. This is all consistent with how I want to think of myself. 2014 Ryan, very comfortable using these people to think about, his own identity, what type of person he is, what type of person he hopes to become. So in this respect, the commercial, it succeeds as an example of what we call identity-based marketing. Okay, identity-based marketing. Right, identity-based marketing. This is marketing that tries to tap into consumers' identity formation process. This type of marketing wants to create messages that people will use to think positively about who they are and who they want to become. So in luxury brand advertising, goal is often to provide images and messages that consumers will use to create their own identity, their sense of self, their sense of 自我. They show us images of people who are strong, powerful, beautiful, creative. They hope that we, the consumers, will use those images to tell ourselves a story about who we are. Yes, this man is brave and focused, that's me. Or when I see the Audi commercial, I see people who are kind, honest, hardworking, and I think, yes, that's me, or I hope that's me. I want that to be me. Okay, but this commercial does something else that's like more impressive, okay? When I see this commercial, I think, okay, I like Audi. I also think something else. I also think, I don't like BMW. Where did that come from? Where does that thought come from? The commercial says nothing about BMW. I don't dislike BMW cars. They look very nice. At first, I didn't know where this thought came from. Gradually, I realized that living in Southern California, I had a bad impression of people who owned BMWs. And after doing a little online research, I find that BMW drivers have a reputation for being mean and arrogant and entitled, lots and lots of privileges, and talentless. Talentless meaning, they didn't earn their success, someone just gave it to them, right? This is like do or die success, right? You don't have to do anything for it. Someone just gave it to you. And you can see bits of this stereotype in their marketing, okay? This example is also from 2014.
I am the imposter. I am the idea too bold to be chained, too powerful to be tamed. I am the Big Bang. I'm changing the game, for The story that has just begun. I am unstoppable. A rocket, a cannon, a carbon fiber body lighter than wind, stronger than storm. I am raw electric. I am sheer energy, the force of tomorrow. I am the possible. I am. I ain't.
Okay, it's a very different type of advertising message, right? BMW wants to convey an image of power and importance. I mean, this guy, "我非常重要, 我非常重要. I'm so important. Look how powerful I am." Yes, very arrogant. So that's a good point. Some people will see it and they won't find it arrogant. They'll just think, that's what I want, right? But I see it as arrogant. And what Audi has done here is very clever. So BMW is the biggest luxury car brand in Southern California by far. Much bigger than Audi, okay? Much bigger than Audi. And Audi has decided to go for successful people who, they do not like this image, right? They see this and they think, I don't like that. They want to go for those people. So what they've done is, for the Audi commercial, they have selected people who are the opposite of this person, right? So these people on the left, they are modest. This man on the right, he seems arrogant. These people on the left are underdogs. This man over here, I mean, we don't know. He seems privileged, right? He seems like a white, upper middle class man working in technology, maybe Silicon Valley. Seems like he probably has lots of privileges in his life. These people on the left are genuinely talented. This person on the right, I mean, who knows? He's just empty words, right? I'm strong, I'm creative, I'm unstoppable. Hey, what are you? Right? Are you a doctor, a scientist? Like, I don't know. There's no evidence of talent there. These people are the perfect opposite of this person. So actually, when we see these people on the left, should this translate? We implicitly think of this guy on the right, okay? Or when I see these people on the left, I think, okay, I like Audi, and you know what? I don't like BMW. So this ad, it's an example of identity-based marketing. It's also an example of what we call implicit marketing. This word, implicit, this is marketing that subtly conveys a branding message without overstating it. Luxury brand advertisements, they never tell you directly what to think about the product, right? They never say, hey, our brand is for successful people who love the ocean. Okay, is that you? Then our brand is for you. No. They provide an image and allow you to make that conclusion for yourself. They're not telling you their message. They want you to create that message yourself in your mind, implicitly or semi-consciously. I mean, this is very powerful because then it seems like the message comes from inside of you, right? It's coming from within you. It's not coming from someone else. It's not someone else's idea that they're trying to give to you. It's something within you, okay? Something deep inside of you. It's part of who you are. We look at the images. The person is successful. They love the ocean. We think, that's me. The Audi commercial does this very well. Okay? They never tell us, hey, Audi cars are for nice people. And BMWs, those are for mean people. So come buy an Audi. If they took that approach, of course, it would be a much less powerful commercial. They convey that message implicitly. Okay, so how did Audi do this? How did they know, my identity, my personal values, which images would sort of activate those values in my mind and make me think, this is me? Well, we're in an anthropology course, so the answer is, of course, participant observation among consumers in the target demographic. Now, of course, we have many methods for studying consumers, and participant observation is just one, but it is a big one. High-level advertising agencies often have teams of anthropologists working to understand consumers and what types of marketing messages will appeal to them. All right, so let's get back to our case study here. This is Professor Timothy Malafit. He is a business anthropologist who has created marketing campaigns for some of America's biggest companies. Today, we're going to discuss a paper in which he compares a highly successful marketing campaign for Cadillac, I think you worked on this campaign, to an unsuccessful marketing campaign for Infiniti. So he's going to tell us why the Cadillac campaign did so well and why the Infiniti campaign did so poorly. He says the difference comes down to how well each campaign understood and connected with consumer identities. All right, so a little background on these companies. GM owns Cadillac, right? And Nissan, they own Infiniti. And since the 1990s, these two brands have had very different levels of success in the American market. Cadillac has performed quite well, while Infiniti has struggled. A little background on Cadillac, it's relevant here. GM. GM, founded in Michigan in 1908. It's a big parent company. I don't know how to say parent company. It's a big parent company for different auto brands: Cadillac, Chevrolet, GMC, Buick. For most of its history, it makes high-quality cars, that sell well in America. Among these are some of the most famous cars, the most iconic cars in American auto history, like this 1937 Master Deluxe, 1953 Corvette. These are some of the most famous cars in American auto history. However, in the 60s and 70s, GM and all American auto companies, they try a new strategy. They say, hey, we're going to decrease costs, decrease quality in order to increase profits. They start using very cheap materials like plastic seats, very cheap and weak engines. These are some of the worst cars ever produced in America. They're famous. They're so bad. They fall apart like in a month. The engines only have like 68 horsepower, and they fall apart after like Wuhan Gongli, right? You have to sort of almost replace the car. These cars, are so bad. They're famous. But actually, GM making all this money because they don't spend anything on these cars, right? And they can do this for a while. They can do this for a while because they don't have any real competition. This is before German and Japanese cars, really enter the market. And Cadillac follows the same path. For most of its history, they produce excellent cars. From the 1890s to the 1950s, these are like the best cars in the world. These are great cars. There's no better cars in Germany or Italy or Japan or anywhere else. These are great cars. But after the 1960s, they follow this same strategy. Why not? It's working, right? It works for at least 10 years. Reducing costs in order to increase profits. They stop trying to improve the cars, and they just try to give the appearance of luxury. Specifically, they make the cars very, very big. At this time, the size of a car is a sign of a luxury. A big car seems luxurious. So you have a car like this. It's just 2 doors, right? It's just 2-door car. It's huge. It's huge. It's longer than like a full-size, SUV. And it's a piece of junk. This is a Cadillac. This is a luxury car. It was expensive. It's absolute trash. The technology is very old. The performance is terrible. But it's sort of luxurious because it's, big, right? It's cheap to make a big car. All right. So GM, they're doing this on all their brands, doing very well, until finally, in the 1980s, US car makers faced all this new competition from Japan. the Japanese cars are much higher quality than the American cars. Toyota, Honda, and Nissan, they all do very well. And their luxury brands do pretty well. Lexus, Lexus does very well in America, still does very well. Acura does okay. Infiniti does terribly, okay? Poor Infiniti does terribly. So immediately after Infiniti enters the American market, they create this advertising campaign called Nature, this 自然 advertising campaign. It's a huge failure. So Nissan's strategy here was to emphasize the Japaneseness of Infiniti cars in order to make it special, in order to differentiate it from other luxury brands. I mean, this is similar to what BMW and Mercedes do. They emphasize, German stereotypes about engineering excellence, right? We think of Germany as a country of great engineers. Germany has a culture of engineering excellence. And BMW and Mercedes, they use that cultural message in their advertising. They're always reminding us, these cars are German. These are German cars. They're full of that, German cultural spirit of engineering. Infiniti says, let's do that. I want that. Not Germanness. They want their cars, they want to market their cars as embodying Japaneseness, like Japanese culture. There's Japanese culture in these cars. Japanese cultural traits. So what are those? Or what are those from an American's perspective, right? I mean, what is Japanese culture to Americans? Infiniti thinks the Americans might interpret Japaneseness positively as serenity. It means like peaceful, calm, beautiful, which is a fair assumption. I mean, Americans do tend to associate Japanese culture with calm, peaceful themes like, meditation, Mingxiang, beautiful gardens, beautiful nature. By the way, this is before anime. Someone show anime. Anime, the cartoon. What's that? Oh, Donghua? Okay. It's before that becomes very popular, right? I mean, I think today if you just ask your normal American in the middle of the country about Japanese culture, they might say something about anime. But before then, it's, monks like meditating in temples. And this is Japaneseness from an American perspective, according to Infiniti.
And the car culture, so as a motorcycle culture in Japan, are also popular in America.
The Honda bikes are very, I think they're very popular, yeah. Right, so that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to say, look, if you're buying an Infiniti car, you're buying this. This is Japanese culture. It's in the car, okay? It's in the car. When you drive an Infiniti car, this is the experience. Okay, so they make some commercials. The commercials you're about to see are considered some of the worst commercials ever produced for an American audience. This is the late 1980s. I apologize, the quality of these videos is terrible. I really couldn't find a high definition video. I don't even know if it really exists. But this is all I could find. It's very hard to see and hear. The first one, it's hard to tell what it is. It's just a lake, okay? It's just a lake.
The feeling is calm, comfortable. There's something, a sense of satisfaction. It's like holding a well-made, perfectly balanced tool. The joy is feeling connected to it. That's the idea. That's the sense of it. That's what it feels like to drive home.
All right. This next one, I know it's hard to see. These are birds in the sky.
An automotive designer looks at the shapes of nature, the soft lines, and because he sees things a certain way, those lines suggest an automobile design that is honest, and natural, and when the driver is more important than the car itself. And what was discovered just watching nature. It's an ancient Japanese notion of what is beautiful. It's called infinity.
Okay, I have one more here. And in this one, we can actually see a car.
The luxury of infinity owes more to innovation than to tradition. It appeals to all our senses. As a driver, you feel comfortable, in control. There is a unity between you and your automobile, and an ownership experience that improves over time. Both the G45 luxury performance sedan and the G20 luxury sports sedan embody this new luxury. We welcome the opportunity to bring infinity and you together for a guest drive. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so these commercials do not connect with Americans. I mean, even though this car must be much better than a Cadillac car at this time, they don't want it. The commercials do not connect with Americans at all. So what went wrong? What goes wrong here? Malefit says there's nothing in these commercials that Americans at this time, 1980s, want to incorporate into their identities. Okay? Certainly there's nothing in here that connects with how Americans at this time think of themselves as successful people. I mean, Americans in the 1980s, they tend to see nature as something to conquer, right? You got to climb a mountain, conquer the mountain. Nature's not something to be one with. That sounds very silly to them. Americans associate luxury with performance, right? A luxury car is one that is fast and corners well, performs well. I mean, you can't even see a car, in the first two advertisements. There are also some problems with the basic idea of trying to market Japanese culture to Americans at this time. People who can afford a luxury car are usually older. They're not 21, 22. They're usually in their 40s, 50s, 60s. And in the 1980s, older people, I mean, they associate Japan with World War II, right? I mean, that's still sort of real in their memory. It's not a positive image. I mean, most people who can remember this attack on Pearl Harbor, I mean, they're not interested in incorporating Japaneseness, into their identity. All right, so using the terms we introduced in the last class, we can say that Infinity has, failed to grasp the emic perspective. They do not understand the perspectives of the people they are marketing to. And by the way, I believe Infinity's advertising team, I think it's an American company. It's not like this is, a bunch of Japanese executives sitting in Japan wondering what Americans, might like. I mean, I think Americans make this commercial, right? So this isn't just, oh, we're Japanese and you're American. That's why we don't get it. But still, whoever does this commercial, they fail terribly to sort of understand what these consumers they're trying to reach, how they sort of, what their perspective on a luxury automobile, what is desirable in a luxury automobile, what that perspective is. All right, let's talk about Cadillac now, and let's see what went right for Cadillac. So Cadillac has great success with this ad series called Breakthrough. Okay, Breakthrough. This is in the early 2000s. There are two things in this ad that I want you to please pay attention to. One, look at the evolution, the jinhua, of cars over time. Okay, look at the evolution, the jinhua of cars over time. And also notice that the commercial has rock music, rock music. It has rock music. Today that's not unusual, but this in America, this is the first ever luxury car commercial to use rock music. Usually use classical music or some sort of soothing music, like the Infinity commercial, right? It just has that very soothing sort of classical music. This evolution of cars over time and this rock music These two features, they end up having big value as an implicit message of success. Going back to this word, implicit or semi-conscious, they sort of have great value as an implicit message of success. All right, so let's watch this. Yeah, this is early 2000s. This is a very successful commercial. And they make a series of these commercials. During this period, what was it? It's like a 3 or 4 year period. Sales for Cadillac, they're up 24%. 24%, and that's a lot. And sales for all other GM cars are down 10%. So it's not like the market's really good right now. Actually, market's very bad, but Cadillac doing very well. Many people believe it is due to the popularity of these commercials. Now, they probably don't seem very special. I mean, we're probably not very impressed by them. So what makes them so powerful for this demographic at this point in time? Well, these commercials were developed by a team of anthropologists who spent lots of time in the homes of the target audience, okay? And their goal is to understand how individuals in this group, in this target demographic, how they perceive themselves as successful people. Now, one thing they noticed, they're living in these homes, talking with the owners, that many of these homes, they have these large display cases, okay, these large display cases that showcase all of their awards and achievements in historical order. So you have the oldest awards on bottom and the newest on top, or you have the oldest items on the left and the newest items on the right. And when they ask, why do you have these display cases, in your home? You're the only one who can, see it. Why are you displaying awards, to yourself? The owners initially sort of struggle to respond. They go, I don't know. I never really thought about it. However, after some thought, they all kind of give similar answers, okay? They all say things like this. When asked, the owner said they viewed their lives as a series of stages or levels. They talked about working hard to improve and transform themselves to move on to the next stage. All right. This is where they got the concept for the progressive evolution, the Jinhua of cars in the ad campaign. And they said, I'm always trying to evolve, I'm always trying to reach the next stage of my career, the next achievement. Whenever that happens, they celebrate with a big party, okay, a big party. They buy something new, they buy something new to put in the display case to symbolize their new achievement, okay, to symbolize their new achievement. But they get together with their friends and they have a big party to celebrate moving to this next level. This is how they think of success. Well, let's go back to these two terms we discussed at the beginning of this. So first of all, this advertisement, it's a successful example of identity-based marketing. I do think most of this comes from the music. This is the first time a luxury car advertisement ever uses rock music. And this band scored, Led Zeppelin, right, this sort of famous rock band, scored very highly in identity salience for these people. That means this group of consumers very comfortable using this band, Led Zeppelin, to think about their own identities. But the real anthropological contribution here, the real anthropological contribution to this project lies in the implicit prime value of the stage evolution metaphor, this 进化 metaphor. Now, you and I, we probably do not find this metaphor very meaningful or very interesting. But it is, deeply rooted in their own life experiences, and it plays a significant role in shaping their thoughts about what it means to be successful, evolving, moving on to the next stage, the next stage, the next stage. And by tapping into this metaphor, if you can just, sort of tap that metaphor within them, you can trigger a positive response that feels, authentic to them. It feels like it's coming from inside of them, right? They feel successful just watching this commercial. They just have to watch it and they feel successful. They think that's me, or that's how I like to think of myself. And the marketing team does very well to identify this. It's hard to identify because even the consumers themselves are not fully aware that they have this perspective, but that's what makes it so valuable for the marketers. The fact that they're only semi-aware of it, that's what enables the message to sort of resonate or activate, very deeply and subconsciously within their own thoughts. In summary, it's challenging to sort of uncover this implicit content just by asking people to share their thoughts. I mean, just like I didn't even really know I had a problem with BMW drivers, until I see this commercial. Likewise, it's hard for them to share these thoughts because they're not even really aware that they have them. How do you find them? Well, it's very helpful to observe and interact with them in the broader context of their daily lives, where they leave little clues. They leave little clues about how they think, and feel in their living environment, in the display case. They don't sort of consciously aware of it, but the clues are there. So if you can spend time in that space, maybe talk to them, live with them, you can uncover those clues. This is one reason why advertising agencies employ many anthropologists. So this is a very different type. Our second case study, very different type of case study. We're talking about trust here. But the trust here is built through a very unique and controversial means. So on Wednesday we talk about trust, and we talk about suffering with people and having shared experiences and shared activities. Well, completely different approach here. Let's deceive them, okay? This one is all about deception. And by deception, I mean not telling them that you are doing research. As you know, or I hope you will know, or hope you will find out, that is a no-no, that is a big problem. Normally, ethical guidelines require researchers to, disclose that they are conducting research, maybe get them to sign a, Tongyi Shu, something like that. So let's look at this. This one is called the transparency paradox. Industrial management scholars have long assumed that increased observability of manufacturing operations enhances workers' productivity. Dr. Ethan Bernstein is collecting data that will challenge this long-held assumption. Transparency, accurate observability, the ability to perfectly observe what workers are doing has long been considered important for both organizational learning and operational control. This means companies want to see what their employees are doing. And if you are a manager of a factory, you want to see everything. You want to see what their hands are doing. You want to be able to see their mouths. Are they talking to each other? You want to see everything that goes on in that factory. We have a common sense expectation, right? That people behave better and work harder when they know they're being observed, right? If we're at work and we're on WeChat or Taobao and our boss walks by, I mean, you know, we start working really hard. We don't want to get in trouble. We don't want to get fired. This is common sense. But there's also research to support this. There are some very famous studies conducted in the 1930s by a Harvard psychologist named Elton Mayo. He conducted research on worker productivity at a factory called the Hawthorne factory. Western Electric's Hawthorne factory, this was near Chicago in America, Chicago. They make these wires, you know, and cables for telephone companies, for phone companies. Now, Western Electric, they want to know, you know, what can we do to improve worker productivity? How can we improve worker productivity? Well, their first idea is, let's change the lighting. Let's improve the lighting. Let's make this space brighter. And let's see if that increases productivity. So, they do that, they make the space brighter, and they run an experiment. But the results are confusing. So here's what they find. You know, an increase in lighting increases productivity. But a decrease in lighting also increases productivity. They say, okay, let's do something with their rest breaks, okay? Let's give them a longer rest break. They can rest for 20 minutes, let's say 30 minutes. We'll give them a longer rest break. They give them a longer rest break, they say, take 30 minutes, productivity increases. They say, okay, well, let's go the other direction. Shorter rest break. Now you just have 10 minutes. They give them a shorter rest break, productivity also increases. You know, what's going on here? Well, they finally figure out that worker productivity increases anytime the workers know they're being observed. I mean, the workers aren't stupid. You know, they're changing their environment. They see people, you know, over there, you know, taking notes. They know they're being studied. They know they're being watched. And because they know they're being watched, they work harder. This is called the Hawthorne effect. Hawthorne effect. Circumstances in which subjects improve the aspect of their behavior being experimentally measured simply in response to the fact that they are being studied, not in response to any experimental manipulation. Right, so the Hawthorne effect is an important finding, but it also means that this research we're doing is kind of useless. We don't know what increases worker productivity. Is it the lights? Is it the rest breaks? We don't know, because every time we try to study it, the workers change their behavior, you know, because they are being observed. Well, so it's common sense that we work harder when people are watching us. There's also research to support this, that we work harder when people watch us. What was that? I mean, that was almost 100 years ago, right? That was the 1930s that he does this research. And for all that time, it's just accepted as just fact. Okay, it's just a fact. Workers work harder when you're watching them, and all modern factories are designed for perfect visibility, right? Near perfect observability of the actions and performance of every employee. So it's a fact. However, in the last 15 years, people who study this sort of thing start to question this fact. There are some reasons to believe that sometimes workers might be more productive if they are not being closely observed. And Dr. Bernstein, Harvard, he wants to test this idea. Are workers in a mobile phone factory more productive when they are being observed by the managers or when they are not being observed by the managers? I mean, to do this, he needs to observe the workers. He needs to see everything they do. He wants to know their reasons for doing the things they do. And he needs to do this without the workers knowing they are being studied. Of course, if they know they are being observed, they will change their behaviors, and that will ruin the study. This is his justification for why he cannot tell them about the research he was doing. All right, so this research takes place in a mobile phone factory in southern China called Precision Mobile. That's not the real name, that's a fake name. He doesn't tell us the real name and location, but it is a very, very big mobile phone factory in southern China. And he conducts 2 studies. I said this was a mixed methods study. He conducts 2 studies. I want us to look at how these two methods work together. It's the first study that uses covert participant observation. Right. This is a month-long qualitative study with data gathered by these 3 embedded researchers, he calls them embeds, who were simultaneously operators on the factory lines and participants for the study. The embeds, right, these were 3 students. I mean, these are his students at Harvard. These are his undergraduate students at Harvard. They were born and raised in China, right? So they're native Chinese speakers. It's not like he has like white Americans there, working in the factory. All born and raised in China, trained in participant observation, and placed on the factory lines as ordinary employees, okay? There's only like 3 very high-level executives, like the CEO, who know about this. I mean, obviously this guy has insane, guanxi. He's a Harvard Business School professor, so. No. Let's look at this first study. The methodology of this study is really cool. So these 3 participant observers, these embeds, they're employees there. They work there and live there and eat there and sleep there. Dr. Bernstein also lives there, but he lives on a higher floor, like on the 5th floor. He never goes down to the factory floor, just sometimes. And he actually lives there the entire time, like in this little office, okay? And every day, during the workers' breaks, and also after work, the participant observers, the embeds, they come up to his office and they all, share their observations. What did you see? What did you see? Why do you think that's happening? They share their observations, okay? And Dr. Bernstein is sitting there, listening and recording and typing everything, and sort of typing up all of this data. They do this for a month. At the end of the month, the participant observers, they say, "Ha-ha, I wasn't a factory worker, I was a fancy Harvard undergraduate student the whole time, and I've been studying you." And they conduct some interviews, and the first phase of the study is over. So what do they find? Actually, I think I would like to do something like this. I've never been a part of a team participant observation project, but I would like to do something like that at some point. It seems like it would be interesting. Okay, so what do we got? At the end of the month, right? So at the end of this first month, he believes that the workers probably work better, work faster when they are not being watched. Okay. And what he does is they identify all sorts of mechanisms through which this might happen, right? How does privacy create enhanced productivity, okay? They identify lots of mechanisms through which this happens. One of them is they often discover better ways of doing things. So you have the official way of assembling the phone, you have the official way of assembling the phone, and then they discover ways that are faster, right? The official way, well, you gotta do this, then you have to do that, then you have to do this. They discover their own ways that are faster, and they prefer to do those ways, but then when management comes around, then they have to stop, okay? They have to stop and do it the official way, which is slower. Why do they want to work faster? He's actually not super clear on this, but he basically says they're bored, okay, they're bored, and they don't get to leave earlier, they don't sort of make more money. He says, well, they're bored, or they take pride in sort of, producing more. He's got a bunch of explanations that they're not entirely satisfying, but whatever. And they come up with all of these possible mechanisms. These are possible mechanisms for how privacy enhances productivity. Okay, so right here, this is how you're supposed to do it. this is how they actually do it when no one is working, when no one is watching, and this is the reason they give for why this is better than this. So if you look at his publication, he's got like pages and pages and pages of these possible mechanisms, these possible reasons why privacy might lead to enhanced productivity. Okay, so this is some evidence, evidence, that maybe privacy leads to enhanced productivity. Let's look at the second study. All right, he's got insane blunchy here. Okay, so what he does here is, he has Precision Mobile put up a curtain around one group of workers. So let's just imagine we got here. All right, we've got a rabbit group here, right, with Fiona and Angel and Dora and Dakota and Junchung. We'll put a curtain around them. And then they will have privacy. I can't see what's happening in your group. I put this curtain around you. And then after a month, I want to see who has been more productive. The people inside the curtain, or the rest of the team. So that's what they do. And here's what they find. Performance on each of the 4 lines, so this is after a month, performance on each of the 4 lines surrounded by curtains, measured in, defect-free units per hour, increased by as much as 15% after the first week, and maintained a lead over the 28 control lines for the remaining 5 months of the experiment. All right, so the Rabbit Go group is more productive when they have the privacy. All right, I'm going to skip through this part right here. But let me ask you. We have this sort of quantitative evidence. We have numbers now that the people inside the curtain are more productive than the people outside of the curtain. Let me ask you, do you see any problems in concluding or deducing that this productivity is because of privacy? Sorry, why is this? Why are they more productive inside the curtain?
There's no medical to compare with his group versus the results.
But the other, we do have the group. Like, so you guys are in the curtain, right? But the rest of the class is not inside the curtain, and you are more productive than that. So it's a fact that the group inside the curtain is more productive. So there's no sort of arguing about that. But can we tell the reason why they were productive, like inside the curtain? So here's the thing: when I see this second study, I don't think that's privacy. I think that's the Hawthorne effect, right? I say, yeah, those people are more productive. It's not because they have privacy. It's because of the Hawthorne effect. I mean, they come to work and there's a curtain around your table. What's that for? Who brought that there? Someone must be watching us. We're being studied. We're being studied. Work harder, right? If it's just this second study, just this sort of quantitative study, I believe that's the Hawthorne effect, okay? And actually, Dr. Bernstein spends a lot of time, it's kind of strange, he spends a lot of time in this article trying to convince us that the workers didn't think they were being watched, or they didn't suspect that we were watching them. I don't find it convincing at all. But it doesn't matter, because he has this beautiful sort of mixed method design. We already had a reason to suspect that privacy led to more productivity. He found all those reasons, all those possible mechanisms in the first study that give us a reason to think that what's going on inside the curtain is something besides the Hawthorne effect. All right. And this sort of illustrates how these strengths and weaknesses can really complement each other. Think about it like this. The participant observation study, the qualitative study, identifies all these possible mechanisms, okay, as to why privacy might lead to greater productivity. He's there. He's talking to them. They're experiencing for themselves. They themselves are more productive when they do things some way instead of other ways. It can tell us that this might be happening, but it cannot prove that it's happening. He's not measuring their outputs, right? And he's only up to, like, when management is watching you, that's just sometimes. Like, we're working by ourselves most of the time, and then management comes along, and the participant observer goes, oh, it seems like everyone is slowed down now. I mean, have they really? He's not measuring this. This is just, his idea. This is just in his head. So the qualitative study, it shows us possible mechanisms, but it can't prove it. And the quantitative study, it sort of proves it, but it can't tell us what mechanisms caused it. If you just have this quantitative study, I have no idea what's going on in there. I assume it's the Hawthorne effect. If we don't have this study at all, then what's going on in that curtain, I think that's just the Hawthorne effect. Yeah, we've known about that for 100 years. Like, congratulations. You've told me what we already know for the past 100 years. But together, one of them gives us possible mechanisms, and the other one gives us some sort of proof. Now, it's true that this study does not prove that it is exactly these mechanisms that are causing it, right? But we're sort of ruling out different possibilities, and it definitely supports the possibility. It doesn't necessarily prove it, but it strongly supports the possibility that what's going on inside the curtain has to do with enhanced productivity through privacy and not the Hawthorne effect. Okay, so I wanted to cover that because I do hope at some point as a student or in your career, you'll do some sort of participant observation work. You'll definitely not only, that won't be your only method, right? You'll do it in connection with some other method, maybe an experimental method. It's good to think about sort of how the strengths and weaknesses of these methods, can really complement each other, and each one can give us something that we can't get from the other. Okay, so I have a little activity here. And I'm going to, how long have we got? Okay, a few minutes. All right, everyone, be careful. I'm going to turn this on. Watch your eyes. Careful, eyes. Okay, so just have a few minutes here. I would like you to please fill out this piece of paper and hand it in. You can leave when you're finished and just bring it up to me. Please fill it out sincerely. I'm just asking you some questions about how what we talked about with participant observation might relate to your own research interest or your own professional interest. And I read these. This just gives me a way to something to speak with you about. Okay, I'm really interested to know what you were interested in and how any of the anthropological tools we are discussing might connect to that. Right. So please fill it out sincerely, and then you can go.